Elara sat in her study, the hologram projector casting a soft blue glow across the room. The voice of the Galactic Council's chairman, a stern Vortakian named Grelter, filled the space with a sense of urgency. We require your support, Earth. This isn't merely a request, it's a plea for survival. The Zarthran Alliance threatens the stability of our galaxy. Elara sighed, her fingers tapping against the glass of her desk. Grelter, Earth hasn't participated in an interstellar conflict in over 3 centuries. Our people won't stand for it. But you have resources, strategies that could turn the tide, Grelter insisted, his holographic image flickering with each word. We've dedicated those resources to peace and sustainability, not war. Elara replied, her tone firm yet weary. Then what do you propose? You stand by while the galaxy burns? Elara paused, considering her words carefully. No. We propose an alternative. Let us mediate. Bring your leaders, and those of the Zarthran Alliance, to Earth. Let us try to find peace. Grelter scoffed. Mediation? With barbarians? It's either that or watch Earth withdraw entirely from the Council, Elara stated, her voice calm but resolute. You have 24 hours to decide. The transmission ended, and Elara leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. She knew she had to prepare Earth for what was to come, whether Grelter agreed to her terms or not. The next day, Grelter's response came. We accept your offer. Earth will host the peace talks. Elara nodded to herself, a small smile playing on her lips. She immediately called a meeting with Earth's leaders, explaining the situation and her conversation with Grelter. Are we really equipped to handle this? Asked Joran, a leader in Earth's scientific community. We have to be, Elara responded. This is about more than just stopping a war. It's about setting a precedent for how conflicts are resolved in the future. Preparations began at once. Venues were chosen, security protocols established, and invitations sent to every member of the Galactic Council and the representatives of the Zarthran Alliance. Earth was buzzing with activity, a stark contrast to its usual serene existence. As the delegates began to arrive, Elara greeted each one personally. She noted the tension in their postures, the suspicion in their eyes. These were beings who had known nothing but conflict for decades. The Zarthran Alliance was the last to arrive. Their leader, a formidable woman named Zarlia, regarded Elara with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. You believe you can broker peace, Earthling? We believe in trying, Elara responded, offering a hand that Zarlia hesitated before shaking. The first day of talks was rough. Voices were raised, accusations hurled, and old grievances aired. Elara and her team worked tirelessly, mediating discussions, facilitating dialogue, and gradually steering the conversation towards compromise and understanding. By the end of the week, something remarkable happened. The tone of the talks shifted. Delegates started to listen more than they spoke. They began to see their adversaries as people, not just enemies. Elara knew they were making progress when she overheard a conversation between a Vortakian delegate and a member of the Zarthran Alliance, discussing their home worlds and the challenges they faced. It seems we're not so different after all, the Vortakian admitted. I suppose not, the Zarthran replied, a hint of a smile breaking through. On the final day of the talks, Elara addressed the assembly. We have seen what's possible when we choose to listen and understand rather than react and retaliate. Let's not let this moment pass. The delegates nodded, their expressions thoughtful, changed. It took hours of further negotiation, but finally, a draft treaty was formed. It was far from perfect, but it was a start, a promise of ceasefire and ongoing dialogue. As the delegates prepared to leave, Zarlia approached Elara. I was skeptical of your methods, Earthling. I thought you naive. I was wrong. Thank you for showing us another way. Elara watched as the delegates departed, a sense of cautious optimism filling her. Earth had not only managed to halt a war but had also begun to mend deep-seated divides. That night, back in her study, Elara recorded her thoughts in her journal. Today we chose peace. Today we showed the galaxy that there's another path. And perhaps, just perhaps, this is the start of a new era for us all. She closed the journal, looking out at the starlit sky, pondering the future. Earth had taken a bold step, but there was much work ahead. The real challenge was not just stopping a war, it was building a lasting peace. Elara paced the length of the conference room, her gaze fixed on the panoramic views of Earth's serene landscapes outside. Inside, the atmosphere was charged, the room filled with delegates from across the galaxy. Today's session was crucial, focusing on the core issues fueling the conflict. We understand the scarcity of resources is a major concern for both sides, Elara began, addressing the assembly. Earth has developed technologies that could alleviate this. We're willing to share these not as leverage, but as a gesture of peace. A Zarthran delegate, Tval, leaned forward, skepticism clear in his eyes. And what does Earth ask in return? Only that you consider a ceasefire. Let us prove our technologies can help before you dismiss this offer. Elara replied, her tone even but firm. The talks continued, with Earth's scientists presenting various innovations in energy generation and food production. The delegates watched, intrigued yet cautious, as holograms illustrated Earth's advancements. As the day progressed, discussions shifted from skepticism to tentative interest. Elara facilitated the conversations, ensuring each delegate's concerns were addressed. It was a dance of diplomacy, each step measured and deliberate. I propose a joint task force, suggested a delegate from the Galactic Council. Let us test these technologies on neutral grounds. If successful, it could form the basis of a new treaty. The room buzzed with murmurs of agreement and dissent. Elara seized the moment. It's a practical suggestion. Testing these technologies could pave the way for more substantial agreements. As the delegates debated, Elara noticed a shift in their demeanor. The possibility of a practical, peaceful solution seemed to take root. The session adjourned with a decision to establish the task force. Elara felt a glimmer of hope, but she knew the hardest part was yet to come. She spent the evening in strategic meetings, planning the next steps and preparing for potential setbacks. The following days were a blur of negotiations, demonstrations, and discussions. The task force met, with Earth playing host, showing not just its technological prowess, but also its commitment to sustainability and peace. One evening, as the delegates gathered for a dinner hosted by Earth's leaders, the informal setting allowed for more personal interactions. Elara mingled, listening and learning about the individuals behind the official titles. A breakthrough came when Tval approached Elara, a thoughtful look on his face. I was wrong about your intentions, Elara. I see now that Earth truly desires peace. Thank you, Tval. It's not just about stopping a war. We hope to prevent future conflicts by addressing the root causes. Elara responded, grateful for the opportunity to connect on a human level. The next morning, the task force presented their findings. The technologies were not only effective but could be implemented without significant disruption to the existing infrastructures of the warring factions. We are on the cusp of something remarkable. Elara addressed the assembly. These technologies can change the galaxy, but only if we stand united in our commitment to peace. A vote was called. One by one, the delegates cast their votes in favor of adopting the technologies and continuing the peace talks. The decision was nearly unanimous, a testament to the weeks of hard work and negotiation. As the delegates prepared to depart, Zarlia, once a fierce critic, offered Elara a nod of respect. You have opened our eyes, Earthling. Perhaps there is hope for us yet. Elara watched them leave, a sense of accomplishment mixed with the heavy burden of responsibility. The peace talks had achieved a significant milestone, but the journey towards lasting peace was just beginning. That night, Elara recorded the day's events in her journal, her words a mix of hope and caution. Today, we turn the tide. Tomorrow, we must build on this foundation, ensuring that today's promises become tomorrow's reality. As she closed her journal, Elara looked out at the peaceful Earth landscape, her resolve strengthened. The path ahead was uncertain, but Earth had shown that even the most entrenched conflicts could find a path to resolution. The galaxy was watching, and Earth had provided a beacon of hope. Elara woke early, the weight of the day pressing on her mind. It was the third week of peace talks, and today they were slated to tackle the most contentious issues yet: territorial disputes and the formal cessation of hostilities. She prepared herself mentally for the challenging discussions ahead, reminding herself of the progress they had made so far. As she entered the conference room, the buzz of quiet conversations filled the air. Delegates from various planetary systems were clustered together, some looking pensive, others animated. Elara took her place at the head of the table, signaling the start of the session. "Good morning, everyone. Today, we address the heart of our conflict: territory and peace. I urge each of you to remember the spirit of cooperation that has brought us this far." Elara began, her voice steady and clear. A map of the galaxy was displayed, highlighting the regions in dispute. Representatives from the affected systems were invited to present their claims, each making their case with passion and urgency. As tensions rose, Elara intervened. "Let's pause for a moment," she suggested. "Instead of focusing on lines on a map, let's consider the people living in these regions. How can we ensure their safety and prosperity, regardless of which flag flies overhead?" This perspective shift slowly changed the tone of the discussion. Delegates began to talk not just about borders but about shared resources, economic collaboration, and cultural exchanges. A breakthrough came when a delegate from a small, neutral system shared their experience. "In our region, we've found that joint governance bodies have been effective in managing shared resources and resolving disputes amicably. Perhaps such a model could work here." Inspired by this suggestion, Elara proposed forming a new committee to explore these joint governance options further, inviting delegates from the disputed regions to lead this effort. The proposal was met with cautious optimism, and after intense discussions, it was agreed that a pilot project would be implemented in one of the smaller disputed territories. As the day progressed, the delegates worked tirelessly, drafting the framework for the pilot project. By the end of the session, they had outlined the structure of the joint governance body, agreed on the initial areas of cooperation, and established a timeline for review and adjustment of the agreement. Elara felt a surge of hope as she observed the former adversaries collaborating with newfound respect. "This is the beginning of something transformative," she remarked to the assembly. "By focusing on what unites us, we have the power to build a peaceful and prosperous future." The session closed with applause, a rare sound in these often fraught meetings. Delegates left the room not as representatives of warring factions but as partners in peace-building. That evening, Elara met with her team to debrief and plan the next steps. They discussed the potential challenges and strategies for supporting the pilot project, knowing that its success could serve as a model for resolving other territorial disputes. The news of the day's agreements spread quickly, sparking cautious hope across the galaxy. Messages of support poured in, and for the first time in a long time, peace seemed not just a distant dream but a tangible possibility. Before retiring for the night, Elara took a moment to reflect on the day's achievements. She recorded her thoughts, acknowledging the challenges ahead but also celebrating the small victories. "Today, we laid the groundwork for a new approach to conflict resolution," she wrote. "Tomorrow, we must continue to nurture this fragile peace, helping it grow strong and resilient." As she set aside her journal, Elara felt a profound sense of responsibility and determination. The path ahead was undoubtedly filled with obstacles, but she was ready to face them, bolstered by the collective resolve of those who now looked to her for leadership. With a deep breath, Elara gazed out at the stars, each one representing a world of possibilities. Tonight they seemed a little brighter, a reflection of the new hope that flickered across the galaxy. Elara stood at the podium in the Great Hall where delegates from across the galaxy had gathered for the final day of the peace talks. The air was thick with anticipation. Today they would finalize the treaty that had begun to take shape over weeks of negotiations. Elara glanced around, catching the eyes of those who had been the most staunch opponents when the talks began. Now, they looked back with a mix of respect and cautious hope. "Ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the Galactic Council and the Zarthran Alliance," Elara began, her voice echoing slightly in the vast room. "We stand at the threshold of a new era. Over the past few weeks, we've challenged each other, learned from each other, and started to build bridges that we once thought impossible. She paused, allowing her words to sink in, then continued. Today, we will sign a treaty that not only promises to end the current conflict but also lays the foundation for a cooperative future. This document is not just about cessation of hostilities. It's about collaboration, mutual respect, and shared prosperity. One by one, representatives from each faction stepped forward to sign the treaty. As they did, Elara felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This was the culmination of her life's work. Her belief in diplomacy and peace crystallized into a document that could potentially change the galaxy. After the signing, a round of applause broke out, not just polite clapping, but a genuine expression of relief and happiness. Delegates shook hands, some even embracing, their previous animosities set aside in the light of their new commitments. As the room began to clear, Tval approached Elara. I must admit, I was skeptical when we started, he said, his voice gruff but sincere. I didn't believe that peace was possible, not after everything that's happened. But you've shown us all a better way. Thank you, Elara. Elara smiled, warmth spreading through her. Thank you, Tval. It was a collective effort. We all wanted peace, perhaps without even realizing it. This treaty is just the beginning. The news of the treaty's signing spread quickly, and soon messages of support and celebration arrived from various corners of the galaxy. Planets that had been on the brink of joining the conflict now pledged to uphold the treaty and contribute to the collective peace efforts. Elara spent the next few days meeting with various leaders, discussing the implementation of the treaty's terms, and the ways in which Earth could assist in the ongoing peacekeeping efforts. The pilot projects for shared governance and resource management were set up, becoming models for successful collaboration between former foes. As the delegates prepared to depart, Zarlia, who had been one of the toughest negotiators, made her way to Elara. You've done something remarkable here, she said, her voice softening. You've given us hope, not just for peace but for a future where our children can grow up without fear of war. Elara felt a lump in her throat. That's all any of us could wish for, she replied. Let's make sure we turn that hope into reality. In the weeks that followed, Elara monitored the progress of the treaty's implementation. There were challenges, of course, disputes to mediate and misunderstandings to clarify, but the overall momentum was positive. The galaxy was watching, and what they saw was a testament to what could be achieved when humanity led with diplomacy and empathy. Reflecting on these events, Elara wrote in her journal one evening, We've set something in motion here, a wave of change that could transform the galaxy. It's up to us now to keep pushing forward, to strengthen these new bonds and build on the foundation we've laid. As she closed her journal, Elara felt a sense of peace. The future was uncertain, but it held promise, a promise that she had helped to shape. Looking out at the stars, she knew that the work was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, the path ahead seemed lit not by the fires of war, but by the light of hope.